The Canadian Premier League, gentlemen, we were on the panel last night. Come on, match of the week. Massive playoff implications. Cavalry taking on Valor. Valor needed a win in order to stay in the playoff hunt. Cavalry, if they got a win or a draw, would not only clinch a playoff spot for themselves, but would do so for Pacific as well. Because they would just put it out of reach for Valor. And what do you know? It ends up being a 2-1 win for Cavalry. So we know who the teams are now going to be, the 4 teams that have made it: Atletico Ottawa, Forge, Cavalry, and Pacific. Pacific does have, a game in hand as well. So it's not exactly solidified either, with Ottawa having the top spot. So that, in the final regular season game, we could see a good little battle for that now that we know a trophy and some financial bonuses are involved with winning the regular season. But now that we know the 4 teams, let's make a case as to why we believe they can or cannot be the winners of the league. So I will start with you, Wheels, and let's begin with the medical.
Sorry, Eddie, can we name this segment something like maybe can it cannot?
Can you do the
need
can?
Something. Can you cannot do the can you cannot?
I feel like you want a jingle. Maybe you should record a little jingle, and then we
can workshop that.
Because I like the potential for this segment, Andy. I don't know about you.
Can or cannot? How about Atletico Ottawa? Give me a reason why they can and cannot win the North Star Shield.
Be the best team in Canada. Sorry, Andy. I apologize. Why they can? Because they've been the most convincing team playing in their shape and embracing their identity all season long. They're also the most experienced team in the Canadian Premier League. So they have players that are right in the mix just in terms of in their sweet spot to go on and win this. Like, they've been the best team aside from a blip. What was that, week 2 against Valor? They've been the best team all season long. It seems like, they have a step up on Cavalry. They've frustrated Forge. They've been a pesky team to play against. I don't think anyone will like playing them come playoff time. Why they can't? If they concede the first goal, can they dig themselves out? Do they have a plan B? Like, I don't know, because they're so ingrained in this identity playing defensive kind of counterattacking football. If they do have to come out and play, what does that actually look like? Ollie, I'm not sure if we've experienced that all season long. They take a lead, they go on and win games. That's their MO. Trailing in a match, coming from behind, a 2-legged tie. I'm kind of curious what that will look like, because I have no evidence to suggest that they actually do have a plan B.
Well, I'll start on the cannot, because that's what I like to do, keep it negative. And that's my question, right? Is that at some point in the CPL playoffs, I think you can look back, every team that's been involved in them, at some point you're going to get punched in the face, right? And it's how do you respond to that? If you go a goal behind or a refereeing decision, you go a man down or something like that. It's happened to pretty much everyone. And Ottawa is still this team that, although they are an older team in terms of age, they haven't been in the CPL playoffs before, right? They haven't got that experience of having been there and done it. So for that reason, for the reason of it, like Wheels said, how do they respond when they come from behind in games and have to chase games a bit more? That's probably the doubt you have with Atletico Ottawa. But in terms of the can, like, it feels like this team has been playing in the playoffs for several weeks now, right? Like, they're just going everywhere around the league and finding ways to win, whether it's scoring from a corner or Tissot putting one in from a free kick or Tabla scoring the goal of the season. Like, they're incredibly stingy defensively, and then they just find ways to cause you problems in attack and are clinical when they get those opportunities. So they feel like a team that's built for the playoffs. Unbeaten in 8 games right now. They look like a force to be reckoned with.
Well, Cavalry keeps their streak alive, just like Forge. They're the 2 teams who, in the 4 years of the league's existence, have always put themselves in a position to compete for the title. So Cavalry, again, with that 2-1 win against Valor, clinch a spot. Ollie, why can and why can't they win the title?
With Cavalry, I think you look firstly at just kind of the players they've got in that locker room for the can. Right. And, they've got leaders, they've got players who have been here and done it before. I almost think, like, as well, that the fact that I think we're labeling them 4 out of 4 and the underdog, the unfancied team in the CPL playoffs, the team that's not in the greatest of form over the last few weeks, like, it might play in their favor in some ways. It might take the pressure off a little bit for a team that you had expected would have pressure piled on, because Forge and Pacific have done it and they haven't. I think they might not mind that. So I just look at, Tommy Wooden Jr., I think, will lean on the guys he trusts, Marco Carducci, Mason Trafford, players like that who I think are proven in this league. They're experienced. They can deal with pressure situations. They're not going to be an easy team to beat. I think there's question marks, as we kind of illustrated on the match of the week, about the way they're playing right now. But there's a strong veteran presence in this team. In terms of the Connaught, like we went over this yesterday, but another stat that I find concerning with Cavalry, they're 2-3-6 this season against the other playoff teams. 2 wins in 11 games. It's their good spells of form have coincided with games against Edmonton and Halifax and teams like that, and the tougher spells have been when the schedule's got a bit tougher. So there's just not a lot of kind of proof or evidence in the regular season right now with Cavalry to suggest that they're a team that's going to make a really strong bid for a championship here.
2 reasons why Cavalry can win. One, they're the best goalkeeper in the Canadian Premier League, the most reliable in Marco Carducci. That's a big plus come playoff times where mistakes can kind of creep in when the pressure starts to mount. And how about time to exercise those demons? Ball in, ball out, like all of these things that have kind of held them back. You know that Tommy Wheeldon Jr. has had the eye on the prize all season long. It hasn't been about the regular season. It's been about hitting your form come playoff time. I'm not sure that they have. As he told us yesterday, it's about winning ugly, and they certainly did. And perhaps they need to be a little bit more pragmatic and find those ways to win. Why they can't? Ollie and I said it. They're the 4th best team of the 4 teams that are going into the playoffs in terms of form right now. The players are underachieving in terms of what they should be. I firmly believe that, look, their gameplay model, the way that they play, it's very good. But that lack of cutting edge in the attacking third, the fact that they haven't won a game after conceding a first goal all season long, there's legitimate concerns right there. So, yeah, they can stumble all they want, but when they're playing against the better teams in this league come playoff time, is that going to be good enough? And Ollie shared the record. I mean, will it be good enough? We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical.
Let's move on to Pacific, the defending champions, who we thought they were in dire straits for a while there. Didn't think they were even going to make it. How disappointing would that have been, that they wouldn't even have a chance to go and try to win back-to-back? But they're in, guys. They managed to pull it together. They're in. But either way, we're still going to have the debate with them, Wheels, about why they can and cannot win the title.
They can because of the Manny Aparicio factor. Do you want to share the stat, Ollie? When Manny Aparicio plays a game and doesn't get sent off or isn't out through suspension or injury, what's Pacific's record?
Their record when he plays 45 minutes in a game is 10-1-1 this season, which I found, even knowing how good he's been, that's a pretty extraordinary stat.
Honestly, he's been the best player when he's played. I know it hasn't been that much, but when he's played this year, he's been the most impactful player in the Canadian Premier League. And he adds to a midfield. Without him, it just doesn't look the same. He brings the energy. He brings the attacking threat. He links the back line to the front line. He's everything for this Pacific side. So with Manny and the team, they just look completely different. Why can't they? Well, there's this gaping hole up front with no Wero Diaz since they sold him, and they haven't been the same team since they got rid of him. I think this is very much matchup dependent here. I think if they get the right matchup, it can be good. 2 big games to go against Forge and Cavalry. I think this not only will of course it will affect where they finish, but it's also kind of will be a good litmus test to show where this team is actually at right now, because they look way off it. Speaking to people around the league, they didn't think Pacific had a chance. I think they do, but based upon how unpredictable they've been this season, I think it does plant a seed of doubt whether they can do this all over again.
Yeah, it feels like over the last few weeks, they were basically written off, which I thought was way premature, to be honest with you, for the reasons Wheels has just said. When Aparicio is in the team, this is a completely different side, a team that's beaten everyone in this league, including the teams they're going to go up against. They're also extremely good at Starlight Stadium, that tight pitch, the atmosphere in that stadium. It's a difficult place to go. If they end up finishing 3rd or 4th, which I think is probably more likely than not right now, even with the game in hands, they're going to get the chance to play their first playoff game in front of their own fans and potentially go and protect a lead on the road for a chance to return to the championship game. They're in a great position, I think, given Aparicio is healthy and not suspended as well. So that's the why they can. Why they can't is also because they rely on Manny Aparicio. It's not the same team as it was last year in terms of depth, and that's just natural when you go through the players they've lost: McNaughton, Chung, Ajabrapor, Campbell, Diaz. Like, it's half your starting 11, right? So the team is not as complete or as deep, I think, as last season. But they have the best player in the league, and he could carry them through.
Can I add this? I think they might be the sleeper team come playoff time, to be honest with you. They did it in the CONCACAF League, these home and aways. And guess what?
Yeah.
Like, they were tough. They were tough to play against. So I think they're going to be right up for this.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's been an up and down season for them, that's for sure. Hence why they were written off, then they're back in, then they were written off, then they're back in. But either way, they're in. How about two-time champs, Forge, who were looking for the three-peat, and it was Pacific who interrupted it last year. They want that crown back. Ollie, let's begin with you on why Forge can be champions once again and why they could possibly fall short.
I'll start with a little quiz for you guys. Tell me who leads the league in goals.
That's playing right now.
No. Sorry, teams.
Oh, Forge. They've
Forge.
scored like what, like 10 more goals than anyone else?
Forge. Who leads the league in expected goals?
Forge.
Who leads the league in goals conceded?
Forge.
Also Forge. Who leads the league in expected goals conceded?
Forge.
Forge?
I feel like we played this quiz before.
Who has the most possession? Who has the most possession of any team in the league on average?
Edmonton.
No, Edmonton. No. I could go on and on, right? They lead the league in every single category. They're the most complete team in the CPL for me. That doesn't mean necessarily they've always been the most effective team, because obviously Atletico Ottawa have been extremely effective at actually winning matches week in, week out. And, Forge at times, I think, don't quite capitalize on the dominance they have in games. But from back to front, on paper, on the pitch, the style of play they have, the quality of their players, this is the best team in the league, in my opinion. The con is what I just said there. Sometimes they don't capitalize on that. And a big concern for me right now in particular is Wubens Passius doesn't have a goal in 8 games. He hasn't scored since August the 6th. This is the guy for me who is the X factor for them. As much as they have other options up front, when you look at Jordan Hamilton and Terran Campbell, you want Passius on form going into the playoffs. He is the one who can score goals, I think, left foot, right foot, heads, any way you like. He's the player who transforms Forge from a very good team to a championship one. And right now he's cooled off. So they need to get him going in these last couple of games of the season. If they do that, I think they're hard to stop.
Why they can, they're the deepest team in the league, and the collection of players, they're winners. They're champions in this league. So underestimating them, you'd be an absolute fool. And it sounds like consensus around the league is they believe that whoever goes on to win this is going to have to beat Forge. Like, Forge is the team to beat come playoff time. Why they can't? Have you watched them play over the last month and a half? They've been bang average. 2 wins in their last 9 games. Like, these players are underachieving. Something just seems off when you watch them play. I can't even put my finger on it, but they're not that dominant team that we've seen even for earlier stretches this year, where it seems like they were playing on a different level than their competition. They've played down to their competition. They should be much better than they are. They're just not on great form right now. That's why these last 2 games for them, I think, is meaningful and purposeful for Forge, aside from where they finished. They need to, string a run of good games together. The 2-0 victory over York. Okay. They didn't even play great that game. And that's one of their 2 wins in their last 9 games. So look, you can talk about talent. You need to see that talent start producing, come together, and they need to come together quickly.
Yeah, it should be a good one midweek when Forge host Pacific, Wednesday, October 5th, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Good little battle as well. Again, as even though we know the 4 teams that are going to be in the playoffs right now, it's for the regular season champion. This could go a long way, and it's a good little matchup.